everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Geeking Out podcast. I am the Athletic Geek, and I am joined this week by Stride superstar B-Rad, who
And don't forget Stride Pro Wrestling Legacy Champion, B-Rad.
Stride Pro Wrestling Legacy Champion B-Rad, at least at the time of this recording. I'm just playing. Who I've had the only been able to see a couple times, but very recently got to see him venture outside of Stride at Anafight Underground, where, in my opinion, he stole the show with Sabian Ayers, and found him on social media and reached out to see if he'd like to be on the show, and he was gracious enough to accept. So, B-Rad, thank you for being on the show.
Hey, man, whatever you need, man, I can do it.
All right. Well, the first question I asked all my wrestling guests on the show is: were you a wrestling fan growing up?
Oh, of course. I remember being 7 years old on the bus ride to school, and there was this older kid, and he was like, "Hey, man, you should watch Monday Night Raw." And I'm like, you know what? Sure, whatever. And that was 2007, and I've been pretty much watching it ever since.
Nice. So you started in 2007. Who were your what kind of storylines do you remember were going on at that time that really hooked you and grabbed you in, and what kind of wrestlers were you watching at that time that made you go, that drew you to professional wrestling?
Yeah, man. Like one of the first storylines I can fully remember was when Chris Jericho came back
Got nice,
from
nice.
he left for a couple of years, and he started his feud with Orton, who was in the middle of his WWE title run.
Right.
And I'll never forget it because he was doing this whole storyline where he had like a running of the torch, like an Olympic torch going for a
Right.
while, and every week you would see vignettes of the torch in different cities. Well, finally he made it to this arena, and Jericho clotheslined the dude, and he did his pose, and I'm just like, oh my god, who's that guy?
Nice. Yeah, Jericho's awesome. That's a good one to get you hooked by far. So you mean Jericho and Randy Orton were two big ones that got you interested. Any others that maybe wouldn't be kind of the ones that people would expect?
I had a lot of favorites growing up. There were when I was watching every single WWE show on TV. Raw, ECW, SmackDown. If there was wrestling on TV, I was watching it. So I had a lot of favorites.
Awesome. Yeah, that was always the
No,
fun time is when you're growing up is all the different wrestling that could be on, during the week and
yeah.
um so you mentioned this was at age 7 that you discovered professional wrestling. Was there a dream of being a wrestler in your mind at this early age, or was it just kind of more so, oh, this is kind of cool and I'll watch it? Were you thinking,
Well,
go ahead.
back then, like I'm thinking, oh, I was always pretending like I had like the fake title belts. I was pretending that, I was winning them and everything. But I never really thought about I'm actually going to become a wrestler.
Right.
Just kind of having fun doing my own thing. And then, in the middle of high school, I discovered Stride Pro Wrestling, actually. I wasn't old enough, so I went to the shows as a fan.
Right.
And, just went off from there.
Okay, you mentioned you found Stride in high school. Were you an athlete in high school? Were you did you have an athletic background at all before you
Yes, I have a little bit. I am a very accomplished skeet shooter,
Okay.
Olympic skeet shooting.
Oh, wow. That was
Where back in high school, I made it to second in the entire nation.
that is well, tell us a little bit about skeet shooting. I don't know when I'll get to talk about skeet shooting again on the show. So, what is high school and competitive skeet shooting like?
It's a very long, kind of. It's kind of hard to explain, actually. Now I'm trying to think about it. but you pretty much you stand in line with like four other people, sorry, and you have your guns, and then you have your box of ammo strapped to the side of you, and you just keep going.
So you just keep like, are you shooting at the same target, or are you like shooting at different targets?
No, we each have in a whole event have 100 targets to shoot.
Okay, gotcha. Um, what?
So what we call a full squad of five will end up having 500 targets to shoot.
Okay. Um, when did you begin shooting? What age did you discover shooting?
That would probably been I was probably 12 years old, so like 2012.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any? You mentioned that you got second in the nation in skeet shooting.
Yes.
Uh, what was that like? Like, how do you? When I think of high school sports, I think of it combining to the state that you're kind of confined into the state you're in. However, you went
Yeah.
beyond the state that you lived in. You went to nationals. How does how does that work in a sport like that? On a high school sport like
Well, it's
that.
actually kind of cool. So we're all like these big trap events, and like all of like these nationals and worldwide events are actually take place in Illinois.
Okay.
They're at they actually take place in Sparta,
Okay. Okay. Yeah, they have the shooting complex in
and
Sparta. Absolutely. Yes.
yeah, and we ever if there's a worldwide event going on, a nationwide event, a state event, it's usually going to be held at Sparta.
Okay.
And I remember being there, and I think it was a score of 99. And there was this another kid who was on one of these nationally ranked teams, and I wasn't. And me and him, and it was called a shoot off, which is basically we keep going, we keep shooting until one of us misses.
Gotcha.
And he just happened to miss one, and I knew right then I was getting that championship.
Awesome. Um. So you're representing somewhat of a smaller town, I would assume. You don't have to give away too many details. Um. On a national level, compared to these, like you said, these nationally ranked teams, that give you a sense of a hometown pride in your school, or was it just kind of another day at the office for you, or what was that like?
Uh, a kind of a little bit of both. And I know that's kind of weird to say. Yeah, I'm very prideful. I love, my compliments, sorry, and everything. But eventually, whenever you're trying to do something that you like doing, that's we're competing for it, you kind of have to think, oh, I'm just doing this again.
I think I lost you a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you're there. You're there. All right, good. Live to tape, guys. Live to tape. So you mentioned shooting. You mentioned you have a background in shooting. Any other sports? In this area, basketball's big. Any amateur wrestling, football, anything of that nature?
Nah, man, that's all I did in high school.
That's awesome. So you said you discovered stride. Kind of.
Yes.
A lot of my early interviews were from the AAPW guys, so kind of whenever I was at that age, we would find AAPW, and then the next generation's finding stride. Do you remember the stride show that you first went to when you're like, oh my god, this is close by, I can do this? Do you remember any of the matches? Do you remember who you talked to? Take me through your first stride
Oh,
experience as a fan.
all right. So the first Global Force Wrestling. If you remember that Jeff Jarrett's
Yes,
little thing,
yes,
they came they came to Marion a couple years ago,
yes.
and my best friend's mom bought us front row tickets to it.
Okay,
So we went ahead and did that, and I sat next to who was a stride trainee at the time, Brian Richards.
gotcha.
Beautiful, beautiful Brian Richards.
Okay.
And when you sit next to someone in a wrestling event, like
You
an
march
outgoing
out with
person
them,
like
yeah.
me, you kind of just keep talking with him, and he's like, "Hey man, we do this wrestling over. We were at the mall at the time after the Marion Mall, and So he's like, "Hey man, we do this wrestling over in the mall." It's like, "You should come by." I'm like, yeah, man, I'll check it out." I was probably doing nothing anyway, so
Right.
I went and I checked it out, and the next month, and it was actually a little bit ironic, the start of the Legacy Title Tournament.
Awesome. That is really convenient.
The
That's
the
awesome.
yeah, the tournament to crown the first ever Legacy champion. So I remember going there, and the first match was a person who helped me a lot in my early career, Tony Flood, versus String Bean.
Okay.
And boom, I was hooked.
So,
And
and it,
I pretty much went to every Stride show between the ages of when I was 16 until I started training them when I was the age of 18.
that is that is awesome. So, you started training at 18. Did you start preparing, you're doing your shooting thing. You mentioned you didn't play any other sports. Did you kind of have this in your head of, hey, I need to start training, I need to start running, I need to start lifting weights? Was there kind of this preconceived notion of, I got to get in shape? Or did you just wait for training to start, kind of
I
getting,
I waited for training.
wait for training? Well, that
Yeah.
segues perfectly into my next question. What kind of shock was it like to go from just shooting as your athletic background to pro wrestling? Or was there like kind of a shock as far as the physicality or anything of that nature?
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Take me through training. What was training at the Stride School like for you?
Well, I'll never forget. So I remember I saw we had this ad going around.
Nope.
I remember seeing it on the Facebook page, and I was good friends with former Stride Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion Red Daniels,
Okay.
and I messaged him saying, "Hey man, what can I do to start training?" And he's like, Go ahead and come up here on Thursday." It was I think it was Wednesday at the time, and I'm like, "Okay," and I'll go do that. I went, and it was the most like eye-opening experience of my life
Oh wow. um.
because I knew this wasn't going to be an easy thing. I knew it wasn't going to be quick. I knew I'd have to, keep at the grind.
Okay. Um. How long did you spend training before they felt comfortable enough to give you a match on a Stride show?
So, I actually my first match wasn't with Stride.
Okay.
It was actually, if you remember A.T. Brooks, if you know that name.
I'm familiar. No, if he listens to this, no disrespect to him. I'm familiar with the name, but I couldn't really tell you a whole lot about him. No offense to
Yeah.
Mr. Brooks.
He actually was running a show in Indiana, and Red Daniels wanted me to have a match against him on that show.
Okay. So what?
And that actually the anniversary for that match was 2 years ago yesterday.
Awesome, awesome. So 2 years since your first match. Well, I'm getting you on the anniversary. I'm lucky. Um,
Yeah.
what is your
Oh
first?
yeah.
Tell me about your first match and kind of that first experience being in a pro wrestling locker room. As a fan, we always think about it and we watch the shows
Yeah.
about it and dream about it. Take me through that experience of
So
preparing for your first match.
that was also my first time. Yeah, that was also my first time in a locker room because at Stride shows beforehand, I was doing, I was filming shows and doing whatever, on the out front stuff. And
Right.
on this one, I remember they were kind of like the Stride school tights, like everyone wore them for their first match. They
Right.
were like these crappy purple, we called me I can show yous, and I had this like bright blue shirt that says I'm like B-Rad, I'm cooler than you, or something like that.
Right.
And I remember I came out, and I know I'm smack talking the crowd and everything, and I'll never forget this. Like I remember there's like this family in the front row, and they kept calling me like very like pretty bad names. Like I don't want to repeat them on here, but
Yeah, maybe we
I'm
shouldn't
just like,
know.
oh my god,
And how
and
did
I'm just like, go ahead.
I was saying, like, how did that feel? Like, what kind of shock was that like? You're like, okay, you play wrestling, and you don't really have that crowd, so you think you're gonna take these vulgar things in stride, these awful things people are gonna say to you in stride. What happens when that first bit of heat, if you will, is as bad as that may be, finally hits you, and you're like, oh, this is real now. I'm in front of a crowd, and they're saying this to me.
Well, at first I'm just like I heard it and I reacted to it. I work into my promo I was cutting at the time. I was telling him like, hey, you can't say that at the family show or something like that.
Nice.
And and so I just take a stride. I keep going, and then Red Daniels comes out and he squashed me.
Well, there you go. Um,
I He didn't completely squash me. I hit one move, and that was a boot in the corner.
nice. So first match, boot in the corner. Was it? What's the feeling like after your first match? When especially one coming kind of as unexpectedly as that. Uh,
Yeah,
t- were you proud of yourself? Were you like kind of like, oh no, I could have done better? You read all these different wrestler books where some people, Chris Jericho doesn't like it, didn't never likes his first match, and he felt bad about it, or despite Lance Storm liking it, or some people think like I knew this was for me and I was great. What was your feeling like after your first
yeah.
wrestling
I
match?
remember. Well, I remember afterwards, feeling like thinking it went well, and then all the wrestlers were like, were coming up to me afterwards, like, hey, yeah, that was pretty good. And I'm like, oh, thanks, man. But then,
Awesome.
looking back on it with the knowledge I have now, I'm just thinking like, why did I do that? Like, why did I, put that foot there or that hand there?
Right. Um. So obviously, from listening to this, we're all wrestling fans in this community first and foremost. And Stride has booked quite a few big names and legends throughout their tenure of running shows here in the area. Do you have any stories of some of the bigger names Strides brought in, be it Jerry the King Lawler, Ricky Steamboat? Were you able to work any of those
Oh,
shows with big names?
so back whenever they were booking like Ricky the Dragon and like James Storm, I was still a fan, and I actually have pictures of me with them somewhere. Like, they're probably long gone now, but I actually got to tag along with our mutual friend Will Power.
Shout out
Josh.
Willpower. Shout out
Uh,
Willpower.
yep, yep. And we get the tag with Bushwhacker Luke.
Wow, but did you get licked? I have to ask that question now.
I did not. I did not get
Oh,
licked. A couple of kids in the front row did, I think.
nice. So you got tagged with Bushwhacker Luke. What was Bushwhacker Luke like?
He was a cool guy. I liked him. Like he was he was very knowledgeable of the wrestling business. Like he's afterwards. Remember, he sat me down and me and him, just talked about just in ring psychology for a while after the match.
Awesome. Um, so you have your first match outside of Stride. What do you remember your first match in Stride?
My first match in Stride would have been around like January of 2019, I think,
Okay.
because us at Stride we do lots of fundraiser shows for different school functions, whether it be a school sports team or the school itself. And a lot of
Right.
times for these new trainees, we have what we call teacher matches, where it's the trainees versus the teachers.
Gotcha. Um,
And so I ended up it was the West Frankfurt school, I think. I don't remember. And that was my first match was against the teachers of that school.
really? Okay,
Yeah.
that's awesome. What was it like wrestling a teacher?
Well, we immediately, I'll never forget it. Like, so these matches were really fun to do because it's these people who don't know what we're doing, and we also have Tyler Keith Hatton there,
Right,
and the whole school. I think the whole school like came out because the gym, the school gym was packed,
right. Um, because
and I was I wasn't B-Rad then, but I was actually my name was T Pain, spelled like Pain,
nice.
teaming with again Willpower, then going by the name of J Pain.
Gotcha.
So we were the Pain brothers.
The pain. Nice. If I ever see Will again, I'm just gonna like use all these names at him next time I talk to him.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah. I haven't
uh,
seen that guy in forever, but
so that was your first match in Stride. When did you become B-Rad? And for those listeners who maybe aren't familiar with Stride or familiar with wrestling in this area, tell them about the B-Rad character and what that's like.
so one of my first few matches as B-Rad would have been March of 2019 in North City versus another one of our mutual friend, Garrett Galloway, Gallows.
But yep, and he's been on the show too. He was on the show a couple weeks ago, so shout out there. And buy his shirt from ProWrestlingTees.com. You owe me one, bud.
Yeah, Wham! What a masterpiece! And me and him ended up having our first singles matches against each other.
What's it like wrestling,
And that's
bud?
I believe that was the first time I was actually I think that's one of the first time I actually wrestled as B-Rad in Illinois.
Quick sidebar: what's wrestling bud like? Is he as crazy as he is IRL in the ring?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
Oh dear.
He'll know this, but every time like I'll always associate burping with him.
Burping.
I know that's a little bit weird, but every time we go to like wrestling practice, he'll just burp at like these random times, like really loud.
Oh god. I'm literally I'm literally messaging him right now and asking about burping. So
Burping at wrestling practice, yeah.
so burping at wrestling practice with B-Rad. That has been sent to him officially. Um so you eventually find the B-Rad character before we really go off on like the tangents that this show is known for. Um tell, because I know I have some listeners that aren't from the area. Tell them about B-Rad. Who is B-Rad, and why should they love or hate you?
So B-Rad is he is Miami's most wanted. He is the hot commodity of professional wrestling. He is big money B-Rad, and whether you like him or not, he's cooler than you.
Cooler than you, yes. So, well, there you go. So, if you ever come down this way, be sure to uh, send whatever you feel that is necessary from that to B-Rad. Um, you say you are the current at the time of this recording Stride Pro Wrestling Legacy Champion. What
Yes.
was the journey like to become a champion in professional wrestling? And uh, that's kind of we all start out as fans, and we all have that fantasy of holding the belt, holding a belt, any belt. Uh, what is that like for you to be able to call yourself a champion in professional wrestling?
Oh, it's probably the greatest achievement I've had so far of my short career. But like, it's pretty much it's a story that we were telling us, right? It's kind of built up, and it's still currently building up.
Okay, awesome. Who did you beat for the championship?
I beat Heath Hatton for the belt.
Oh. Okay, well, now we gotta. What was it like getting to win your first title from your trainer?
So, first of all, I actually won my title during quarantine because we were for Stride for a little bit. We've been doing tapings with no fans, but we're
Right.
slowly trying to let a few fans come in and be around for this. And it was actually my first match back from quarantine because we went in quarantine in what, March, I think.
Yeah, Mart. Yeah, Mart started kind of close to March, and I know all the wrestling got done in a, kind of banished in April, but yeah.
Yeah, I started. Yeah, we. I had my match at when I was quarantine in March, and then the first quarantine after the quarantine match back in June, I think. Uh, I start this little program with Keith Hatton, and eventually leads up to a like.
Kind of breaking up a little bit, bud.
Some people say I had help from Cash Borden, but oh,
Yeah, I
can you hear
got
me
to.
now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You got to tell that whole story
Can
again.
you hear me now,
So
man?
yeah, I can hear you now. You just have to unfortunately tell that whole story again. Live to tape is
Okay,
awesome.
it's fine.
At least it's
Yeah,
not. Since
we
we're
gotta
talking
roll with
about
it.
Heath Hatton, though, this is not the worst thing that happened.
So,
His dog ran away when I was interviewing Heath, and we all got to hear him try and catch his dog and bring it back in the house. So this is not the worst thing that has happened during an interview. But the story of beating Heath for the title, uh, yeah, just
well, you
continue.
can watch it on the Stride Pro Wrestling YouTube channel. You can watch our match on the Stride Pro Wrestling YouTube channel.
I will include
And
a link.
some people say Cash Borden. Yeah, some
Right.
people say Cash Borden helped me win the title, but I didn't see him. So, I hit him with my finisher, the B drop,
The beach.
and then 1, 2, 3. I've been your lucky champion for over 200 days now. I think.
200, 200 days and counting at the time of this recording. So definitely really cool, and definitely we all have that dream as a wrestling fan growing up, and you know you were very very fortunate and blessed to be able to achieve that. Um, so kind of sticking with more current stuff because I really wanted to ask you about this. Uh, wasn't my first time seeing you, but it was my most recent time seeing you was not even in Stride. It was for a new promotion in Southern Illinois called Anafight Underground, and last week we had we uploaded the episode where we talked a little bit about this show with the great Bull Bronson, and
Bull.
I love Bull Bronson, love the guy, he was great. Um, and he kind of gave his perspective of some stuff that was going on that show. Uh, what was how did you get booked on that show? How did you find out about Anafight Underground? And what was the difference wrestling for a promotion like Fight Underground, which is not for all members of the family? It's a little bit more based in hardcore and deathmatch wrestling compared to Stride, which they do fundraisers for at grade schools and not quite as big on the violence that Fight Underground is. How did you get that booking, and what was it like wrestling in kind of a different promotion such as that one?
So, it actually was the first time wrestling for for not Stride in Southern Illinois. I've done a couple other ones, but they were pretty much like the same style as Stride, very family friendly, very not hardcore.
Right.
But at the Stride show, I think before Anifine Round, I hit it off with uh, Zach. I hit it off with Zach
Yes.
and Dalton,
Zach and Dalton, both friends of mine.
and
Yes.
yeah, and I knew the show was going down, and I thought about going to as a fan so I could meet New Jack,
Right.
And I was thinking about going, so I asked him. I was like,
Yep. You still
man,
there?
Zach, if
Kind
there
of.
was
You
any
kind of broke up a
more,
little bit there, bud.
yeah, I'm still here, man. Hello.
Yeah. Okay, you broke up a little bit. Sorry. This
Oh
has been
yeah, it's
this
my
has been
phone.
crazy. This one. Damn technology.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you asked.
But I was asking Zach.
Okay.
I asked Zach if there's any more meet and greet tickets, man. He's like, oh, you can just go ahead and come up and just like hang out. I'm like, okay, man. Then he messaged me later, said, hey, you want a match? And I'm like, yeah, man, let's do it. And then ended up me and one of my best friends in the business, Savion Ayers.
Yes. Um. Yeah, that match was probably. I don't want to say it was my favorite. It might have been my favorite match, either that one or Zach's match. But that was one where I'm like, yeah, these guys. Like I remember standing up for both of you guys after that match. It was great. Um, you and Savion, doing this match in front of a completely different crowd. What was the feeling like knowing that you won over a different crowd than the normal Stride crowd?
It was very me and Savion. Well, first of all, history between me and Savion is we've had hundreds, and I mean hundreds, of practice matches together,
Right,
where it was us in the Stride building for the other trainees or our trainers. So I knew we could do something really good here.
right,
So I was excited. I was when it was going to be in Savion. I knew we could make some magic.
awesome. Um,
So
so
I just looked at him and I said, "Hey man, let's go ahead and keep it simple," and we did.
well, that was some pretty damn good simple, if I do say so myself. You
Thanks,
mentioned
man.
you mentioned that you wanted to go meet New Jack, which was kind of one of the main. I'll support Dalton and Zach no matter what, but that was a big deal to me to finally, after many years, get to go meet New Jack. Last week, I asked Bull about New Jack, and he's pretty candid with his comments. Uh, what was it like sharing a locker room with the original gangster?
Well, he was. I didn't really talk to him. I kind of just kept myself a little bit. But I did talk to him once. He came up to me and asked me where Dalton was, and over there, man.
So, other than just a normal handshake,
That
you didn't
that's
really.
my New Jack story.
Yeah, where's Dalton? And as we've learned with New Jack, it can always be worse. So I consider that a good New Jack story, man.
Yeah, yeah.
um. So what did you? How
Oh
would
yeah.
you compare? You know, Fight Underground from their just their first show to a Stride show, just as a performer on the show.
Well, I was gonna say the Anafied Underground crowd was rowdy. That's a little bit different than what, especially I was used to. Like, I've had some rowdy fans, rowdy crowds there at Stride or like different other shows I've been on. But like the amount of like how crazy that crowd was, I wasn't expecting it.
Right.
And you're someone like me who loves working off the crowd with these crowd reactions. It was perfect.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was a phenomenal match, and I'm really hoping that we both see you and Savion again. Really, obviously, keep Stride going because Stride does some wonderful things for this area, and keep we got to show all the love and support to Stride for all the wonderful things they do. But I really hope that both you and Savion can kind of keep spreading your wings and being able to branch out to different places like Fight Underground. Um, One thing I do with all my wrestling guests is I do word association at the very end of the interview. So if you would like to, I got a few names and I'm just going to list them, and I want you to say the first thing that pops into your head.
Okay.
First name is Savion Ayers,
Save on air, buddy.
buddy. Mike Masters.
Mike Masters, mentor.
Okay. Bud Galloway. I think I know what it is now.
Crazy.
I was thinking it was going to be Burp there for a minute.
No, I should have said burp, but crazy will work.
Axe Allward.
Axel, good friend.
Jay Spade.
J Spade, trainer, amazing trainer. Let's say that.
Zach Sawyer.
Zach Sawyer, good friend.
Dalton Diamond.
Dalton Diamond, good dude.
Dude. And finally, Heath Hatton.
Had an amazing trainer.
Amazing trainer. All right. Well, that is it. This is a still got a lot of meat on the bone, as Conrad Thompson would say. I'd like to have you back if we can, work together on another sort of project on the podcast. We do lots of different
Yeah,
stuff
man.
on here. But do you have any social
I'm up
media?
for it, man.
Do you have any social media you'd like to share
Yeah, go
for?
ahead and follow. Yeah, man. If you also we find I can also plug a couple of wrestling schools around the area.
Do whatever you want to plug. Whatever you want to plug. Social media, wrestling
Okay.
schools. This is your time.
All right. So go ahead, like and follow the B-Rad Facebook page, where you'll keep updated with shows I'll be on in the future or other different projects I'm working on. But then also, I want to plug a couple of wrestling schools for all you aspiring wrestling fans out there. First, there's Stride Pro Wrestling, based out of Carterville, Illinois. Go ahead and look them up and follow them on Facebook. And then next is IWA Productions. They just opened a new school recently in Mount Vernon, Illinois. And go ahead and look them up, follow them on Facebook, get all the information from there. But those are two wrestling schools I recommend in this area.
Awesome. And so you got the B-Rad Facebook page. Any other social media?
That's it right now, man.
At right now, okay. And there will also be a link in the description box below to for his social media and to watch him capture the Stride Legacy Championship. So everybody, go check him out and check out his work. And I want to thank you again for being on the show. It's been kind of been an adventurous sort of week, but we were finally able to make this show
Oh
happen, and
yeah,
I really appreciate it. And thanks for the great match at Anified Underground. And thanks for all the hard work you are putting in for Stride.
thank you, sir.
And if you'd like to follow me on my social media pages, follow me at facebook.com/athleticgeek89, Twitter at athletic_geek89, and Instagram at athleticgeek89. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share, subscribe for more content, not just from the world of pro wrestling, but from the world of comics, anime, gaming, and all things geek culture. And if you'd like to help improve the channel, feel free to donate a couple bucks on Patreon at patreon.com/athleticgeek89. Thanks to the Stride Legacy Champion, B-Rad, for being on the show again. We'll see you next time.